Welcome to the February edition of Elite Schools TV podcast. I'm Rob Spicker and your host for our conversation today. We're going to talk about the proposed Safe Start initiative. It's one of the school district priorities to address student achievement, and this is a way to perhaps get there. Today we're going to talk through this proposal with our Chief Academic Officer and our Chief of Safety, Security, and Fleet Operations. We're going to start our conversation with the Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Nathan Shaker. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, Rob.
Appreciate it. To kind of talk about this proposal, the Safe Start initiative. Just overriding, let's look at big picture about what this proposal is. Yeah. Break it down. What are we doing? Why are we doing it?
Yeah. The why is always really important, right, Rob? So proximity over the last 2 years has really brought the number of routes that we are servicing on a day-to-day basis down to a manageable number where we can really look at a system that only has essentially three tiers of bus routes. Now, this creates incredible efficiency, and I think coming along with that efficiency is really the opportunity to make the most out of the time that we have with our students. We know right now that on a day-to-day basis, thousands of students are coming to school late, are being dropped off late. In the evenings, it can be thousands who are being picked up late from school, not getting home until late. This gets in the way of a lot of different pieces. It gets in the way of the early morning reading block that we rely on in elementary. We like to schedule our kids into math first thing in the morning, but if they're not getting there on time, they're going to miss some key instruction. And at the end of the day, when sometimes the buses don't pick them up for a few hours, it's real hard to get home and do your homework or spend some time with your family. So.
Yeah, and moving from the 4 tiers that we have now to 3, that's really the primary difference, but the big difference maker of this proposal.
Absolutely, the biggest difference maker. And what that's going to create is really just room to focus more on instruction. And obviously one of the ways that we're doing that is looking at increasing the instructional minutes at the high school level. That's a move we've been looking to for years now, Rob. We've talked about it, I think, every year for the last 5 or 6 years. And it's the direction we need to go. You know, just 2 minutes a day equals 2 minutes a period equals 14 minutes a day. Multiply that over 180 days. You're getting a lot of hours of instruction. You're getting a lot of time with the kids. And so, yeah.
Let's look at these proposed start times. So Tier 1, that's the high schools, the 5K8s, and 2 of our elementary schools starting at 7 o'clock. Yep. Tier 2 is going to be the rest of the elementary schools. They have an 8:40 start. Yep. Tier 3, then that's our middle schools at 9:45. So that's set up. What does that allow the transportation to do for the students first?
Well, it's going to give them that hour and even a little bit more in between each one of those shifts. So buses usually aim to drop off about 20 minutes before the first bell. Sometimes it's less than that. So really it allows them to drop off, start picking up their next tier, start running those next tiers, pick up all those students, and be there with plenty of time to do a timely drop off at the next tier. Really, once we have that little bit of time within the schedule, that little bit of flexibility, I think our drivers are going to feel more comfortable. They're not going to feel rushed. They're not going to feel under pressure. They're going to be able to stop and take a quick break if that's what they need to do. So, and I'll tell you, when they have a good experience in the morning, they're the first adults that a lot of our students see. It trickles into the schoolhouse, and so the kids will love having a driver in good spirits in the morning.
And I heard you mention this. If they have just that little bit of pad built into the morning, the kids, they can get that grab and go breakfast. They can sit down and be ready and kind of settle in for a minute or two, and then here comes the teacher, and we really begin the day.
Yeah, I think about it just probably the same way that you do, Rob, or the same way that I would. You know, we like to get to work a little bit early, probably about a half an hour early. You like to sit down, relax, have a cup of coffee. The kids won't be having a cup of coffee, but really kind of just settle into the place that you're at before you really start focusing. On those days that you know we're running behind and we step in and we're right to action the moment that we get there, those aren't our best days. So this is going to provide that space for the kids to really just come to school, enjoy being at school, get lots of good mornings from everyone, see everybody they want to see, and then get down to business.
And you touched on this when you mentioned the instructional minutes, but really, how is this better time, that mindset at the beginning, a couple minutes maybe added to some of the periods, improve student achievement?
it's time with the students. And so 2 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but 2 minutes makes up for a student using the restroom. 2 minutes gives us an opportunity to do a quick little check for understanding at the end of the day. And 2 minutes truly does add up. I don't know if we're fully going to feel it until we get to mid-year next year. That's going to be my touch point, because I think we're going to get to mid-year next year, and we're going to find that we've made it further along in the academic plan. We're going to find that we've gotten to a further part with the students than we have this year, and that's, I think, when we're going to start feeling the benefit of those minutes.
Another benefit to those minutes is it's going to give us some flexibility, right? If we have severe weather closures,
Correct.
To look at the days we have to make up.
Yes. When it comes to maintaining our state requirement, getting 300 or getting 150 bona fide hours of instruction is really the key. That's within our state statute. That's very hard to do at a 47-minute period, especially if we miss time for storms. And storms, unfortunately, have kind of become a regular part. I think they're coming pretty regularly these days. So it's absolutely right. When we have extra hours, when we have space to be a little bit disrupted, we won't feel the impact quite as much.
And this proposal, you think, really helps parents as well. We get some benefits for the teachers, benefits for the kids, but mom and dad might notice a big difference too.
Yeah, I hope they see their kiddos coming home on time, getting there before dinner instead of after dinner, getting there in time to go to their soccer practice instead of mom and dad needing to come pick them up just to get them to their evening events. I don't know. I kind of hope they come home with a little bit less homework, and so.
And a little less stress for everybody. If you know your child's going to be at the stop and the bus is going to come,
Yes.
Then you don't worry as much. And if you know it's going to be there in the afternoon at the time it's expected, then you're not worried as much then.
Yes. Rob, I was a middle school principal for 10 years. I will tell you that when our middle schoolers have a peaceful and calm day, our parents have a peaceful and calm day.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. Parents have been asking this question about before and after school care, because obviously it's going to affect some of them and the schedules that they have now. What can you say to that concern at this point in time? Really,
every elementary school will have a before or after care program, whether it's through a community partner or whether it's within the school. That'll be there. Our middle schools are most of them have them if the demand is there, but really the demand in general drops when it gets to middle school. A lot of our kids are just kind of getting of an age that they can be home alone if they need to, and so. But that opportunity will be there for every middle school student.
So it's really just keep in touch.
Every elementary school student.
And so really just keep in touch with your school as we end this year, kick into gear for next year.
It's always the best way to go, Rob, is to speak with the principals. Our principals are amazing. They are managers of incredible communities. If you ever have any questions, always a good idea to talk to the principal.
And talk to teachers who may look at this proposal and wonder what it means for them. All of a sudden, perhaps I'm one of those middle or elementary schools that's changing times. What should they be thinking or doing?
I think they should just be kind of thinking about how they want to plan for next year. I know one of the positive benefits that'll come about is we're really looking at a 30-minute lunch for all teachers, for all staff, which is something that I think also we've been wanting to do for years and years. It was very important to TALC and to the union, and so when there was discussion about increasing instructional minutes, that was immediately something that I know we wanted to partner with them on, is getting that 30-minute lunch into the day. It's only 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes feels really good.
And if they have questions, it's just like the parents, stay in touch with their principal, talk to their administrators, and work those things out so that each individual case can be handled individually if you've got a problem.
Absolutely. And I think the principals are absolute experts at meeting parents where they are and meeting parents with what they need. So they are the first round for sure.
And I think I've even heard you say the principals might want to talk to principals, because some schools do things a little bit differently and may already have a leg up for some of the challenges they think they're going to face.
And they have a great network. I mean, our principals work together so well. They work together so closely. They are truly, truly a team of instructional leaders who are out for the benefit of their students. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to keep being amazing and working together with other principals for sure.
So to be clear, as we record this, the Safe Start initiative is still a proposal.
Correct.
So these times are proposed. What happens next? Where do we go from here?
I think we are in our second feedback cycle right now. So we presented to the board almost a month and a half ago. Got lots of feedback, made a number of changes based on that feedback from principals, from staff, from town halls, from board members, from food service, from IT. I think this is our second round of feedback. Probably fewer changes. I think we've caught most of them. But our goal is to take a finalized recommendation to the board in March. The board ultimately will vote on the start times for every school. So that is what we will take to them, and that will be our recommendation to them. That should be finalized definitely before the next board meeting.
All right, so we look forward to that in March.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shaker, for coming in and kind of walking us through the Safe Start Initiative.
You got it. Thank you, sir.
And now I want to bring in Dave Newlan, who's our Chief of Safety, Security, and Fleet Operations, and talk about how this impacts the buses more specifically, Dave. Appreciate you coming in. And let's get into this proposal. We've been dealing with bus shortages for years now. So why are we to the point now where we can kind of make this change that may see the most dramatic improvements yet?
Well, I want to go back to when we did the proximity. I think that was definitely a step in the right direction. Guys moving there, but now we look at the details. I think one of the things that we have to consider, and I always mention about just as us as a citizen driving, we're living in Lee County, driving in traffic every day. Mm-hmm. You know, I think at one point we'd say, well, it's a seasonal traffic, but now I feel like it's almost year round. And we think about Lee County, it has over 2,000 square miles. Our buses travel from one end to the next. Mm-hmm. So when we have bus routes set for our drivers, we have to make it realistic where they can achieve that bus ride on time, knowing that you're dealing with traffic, which we can't control. So no one thinks that we can't control. We have to make those adjustments to make sure that we are successful. Yeah. And obviously, when I think about that, think about the things that we are concerned of hearing from parents about, their community feedback about safety. Kids being at bus stops longer than they should be. The safety mm-hmm. concern and just even with students driving late at school, so that can become disruptive. The fact of students that get picked up later in the day, mm-hmm. Walking home late, dealing with traffic. So when we looked at that, we wanted to make sure that we applied that methodology as far as looking at traffic into our bus route system, that the drivers can go from Route 1 to Route 2 or Route 3 and meet those on-time deliveries with the students as expected, but having that time to deal with traffic. And I think by not doing that, it really creates a lot of stress and a safety concern, not only on the students, but also on the drivers.
And to those drivers, let's sort of set them at ease a little bit first. This proposal does not require less drivers. We need everyone we have, still potentially more. So if they're driving for us, we need them.
Absolutely. And I think now with the proposal we're doing right now, it really allows us to meet those needs with our current staffing of drivers. As we start from the first route of the proposal and work away from Tier 2 to Tier 3, the routes drop, which makes us even more successful to make sure we have enough drivers to meet those requirements.
Yeah,
and needs.
That's a key part, right? That each tier is setting up a driver for success. So going from 4 to 3 gives them the opportunity to be on time. They get it's an hour at least now between those start times.
Yeah, it's an hour at least in between the start times, and taking into consideration things like, again, I mentioned it again, the things we can't control. Mm-hmm. Thinking about traffic, day-to-day things that could happen on the roadways, that we can make sure that they get their school on time, or pick up kids on time at bus stops, or bring them home either way.
And it's got to be good for them, the drivers, to have that extra time. There's a lot of stress on them if they're doubling up or circling back to pick up a whole new route. The overtime, the driving through all of that traffic with those kids. So this really helps their, well-being, their performance by giving them a situation where they can succeed.
I mean, the drivers, they want to make their routes. They want to be there on time. It's really important to them. So by not being able to do that, it creates a lot of stress. There's a potential for increased bus accidents, even traffic violations. You're trying to get from A to B. You want to make those route on time. You want to get the kids home on time, run to school on time. So that's really important to the drivers. That undue stress that we can take away from them. To know that our expectations of them on these new proposed routes, they can actually meet and be on time.
And for our students, there's a benefit here, too. That time between the tiers allows the drivers to finish. And for our middle school students, have so long gotten the short end of the stick, particularly in the afternoon, because you get a delay with the first group, and then you get the next group pushed a little bit farther behind. And by the time you get to the middle schoolers, those poor boys and girls could be picked up from school an hour or more late and get home after it's dark. So this gives all of our students the benefit of being more on time and to know what to expect.
And also what I like about this is, that the bus drivers get to know the students on their buses. They know the routes. And when you have, right now, with that concern of not being able to meet the routes on time, you're calling maybe another driver in to take up another route they're not familiar with. That's the part that now with this, by meeting those expectations, that drivers are on that same route every day with the same students. They know their students. So it just all around, it's safer, better, and it just makes it more successful.
And how critical is it to the success that Tier 1 doesn't require as many drivers as we have, and Tier 2 requires a few less drivers, and Tier 3 requires even less drivers, so that we can spread them out through the day and get to everywhere we need to be.
And we can take into account on the average day how many are absent or due to being sick or FMLA issues, anything like that. We can take into consideration on a daily basis that's taken into account. So as the day starts heavier with routes, and yes, it does go down on Route 2 and 3, we can meet those needs.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about in the first half of this podcast about our student achievement, but there's a student safety element here as well that you want the kids and their parents to know about them being at the bus stop.
I know parents are concerned, and we are committed to make this work. Parents nowadays, both parents are working. They have a very regimented schedule. And then they're monitoring whether their child's out on the bus, for example, and either the child's arriving late at school or, and the child's sitting at the bus stop, but the parents are both heading to work, or even after school where maybe the children, they get picked up later in the day. And normally there's a schedule with the families nowadays, whether it's sports or other after school activities, that has a kind of a snowball effect on affecting all those things you already have planned. So it definitely creates undue stress amongst, I think, the families, the students, the staff, everybody. And then obviously we don't want students sitting at a bus stop again unattended for any more longer than they have to, walking later in the day home any later than they have to. All those things that we're thinking about. And just the biggest thing is, we hear the community, and now we want to respond, and we want to make these things, we want to fix these concerns for the community.
Right. If you think your child's supposed to be picked up at 7:45 and dropped off at 3:45, we should be much closer to those times next year, correct?
Yes, we are committed to make this work.
Well, we look forward to seeing what happens next, and thank you for joining us this morning, Dave. We appreciate it. Both Dave and Dr. Shaker gave a proposal to the board, gave them a more recent presentation. You can look at that video with the link that's on the screen here now. And we'll come back next month with another edition of the Lee Schools TV Podcast.